Dominick Cruz versus Jose Aldo. What does that do for you guys? Anything? Did I just stir up some emotion? Some of you hardcore fans, I know I did. Some of you hardcore fans went all the way back to the WEC. But what does that do for you right now, right here in this moment? Is that a big fight? Because for me, it is. However, I have a difficult time separating a fight that I would love to see for nostalgic and respect reasons. And that is what this will qualify as. For me personally, I have a hard time separating, making a distinction between that category and just what is a big fight. Meaning, would you guys, does that just appeal to you? If Dominick and Jose are going to fight, what are they fighting for? What is this about? I do think there's an answer, which is top contendership. And I don't need to hear that it's the #1 contender and whoever wins goes on for a title, but you know what I mean. You're climbing. Because Jose Aldo has made it crystal clear to anybody that will ask, he is on a pursuit of the championship. Not to mention, what an incredible job he's done. I mean, what Jose Aldo has done right now and is continuing to do is nothing short of inspiring. And that is not a word that I get to use very often. I would like to use it. I would just feel wonderful about myself if somebody said it about me, that I inspire them. It's a big compliment, and it's what Jose Aldo's doing right now, but we also know why he's doing it. He's made this perfectly clear. This is about a championship run. Okay. I think Dominick Cruz is also on a championship run. However, Dominick Cruz has never said those words. Dominick Cruz has really never said anything. Dominick Cruz is who is making it hard to be a supporter and a fan of Dominick Cruz because he's not giving us anything. Dominick points a cannon in some direction, man. He's got a whole army of us. I'm saying us. I'm one of them. I'm a Dominick Cruz maniac. What do you call it? Dominick Cruzite. I don't know what he wants to do. I don't know what direction he's going in. I know that he was one of the greatest fighters to have ever done this sport. The end. Not in this weight class, not in this era, not once upon a time. The end. Any weight, any gender, any way you want to do it, any rules, any amount of rounds, 3, 5, this weight, any way that you want to disguise this thing. Dominick Cruz is one of the greats ever. It also comes to our attention. It must have been John Anik. Somebody said this during the broadcast of Dominick's last fight. They said Dominick Cruz has never lost a fight that was not for the world championship. I didn't know that. I know he'd only lost a couple. I think 3 is the exact number of losses he's ever had, but I didn't know it in that category that they were only world championship. Top of the bill, 5-round, iron on top of iron. I didn't know that. That's an amazing feat. And when you get a guy like that that is still active and still busy, oh, should I mention who's on a winning streak, it would appear pretty clear that he is also on a path and a journey, much like Jose Aldo, to the top. But Dom hasn't said that. It's a big deal, guys. It's a big deal that he hasn't said the words. Because Dominick's placement on the card is also a real topic of conversation. A lot of us out there going, wait a minute. You got a good-looking, you got a popular, you got a talented, and you got a winning, multiple-time world champion who is not one of the last 2 fights of the night. And while that conversation exists, you want to know who's not participating in it? Dominick Cruz. So then it puts me in a position of, well, what business do I have to step in here and start to defend Dominick and start to argue about it? If it doesn't bother him, what standing in the matter do I have? And when I say the word I, it's the collective us. What are we supposed to do? Because when I do look at Dominick Cruz versus Jose Aldo, I mean, oh my goodness, how do those guys avoid each other? The same question would go with Dominick Cruz and Frankie Edgar. Like, how can these guys be right here but have never been locked in there together? How? We can't do anything to stifle Jose Aldo because he is so committed, so obviously driven towards getting back to a world championship fight. We can't do anything to stifle him. Would imagine a win over Dominick Cruz help him in that direction? I believe the correct answer is yes, but I believe you have to search for that answer, and right off the top, first glance, most of you probably said no. Most of you said, Chael, what are you talking about? Dominick isn't even trying to get to the top. Dominick isn't in #1 contender status, and then I got to come back and remind you because Dominick didn't. Yes, he is. He is whether he said it or not. It is whether he doesn't have the placement on the card that I personally think he should have or not. He never lost a damn fight that wasn't for the world championship. Oh, and by the way, the last world champion to beat him is no longer in the division, which opened things wide up for Dominick Cruz, but I can't come out with that. I can support it. Dominick has to come with it and put you back in the same position. Jose doesn't want to fight anybody unless it gets him closer. I think that a fight over Dominick Cruz, considering nobody's ever beaten Dominick unless they were the world champion, I would think a win over Dominick Cruz is going to catapult you. At the same time, if that isn't part of the story, look, it's perception being reality. So it's a tough spot. It really is a tough spot. Because when I ask you, do you want to see that fight? Even though that question is very direct and points at one thing, do you want to see the fight? You now have two options, yes or no. I'm really not only asking you that, am I? I'm really also asking you to make a prediction of, do you think you're going to see that fight? So your mind is instantly going to go, yeah, Dominick Cruz and Jose Aldo, wow. Be a whole bunch of belts on both of those mantles. That's going to be a great one. When is it? But your mind is then going to also try to calculate, how's Dana going to look at that? How are the athletes going to look at that? How are the managers going to look at that? And what is this about? Is this just about nostalgic sake? Is it just about trying to set the record clear? Is it about giving one guy a little bit of shine, maybe taking away from another one of our heroes? Or is something bigger on the line? I argue wherever the hell Dominick Cruz goes, so does top contendership. But I can't make that argument successfully. I know that I'm right. I know I am. But I'm not going to succeed. I'm not going to succeed being the first to say it. I can support it. It's got to come from the principal, who in this case is Dominick Cruz. So I'm going to ask you again, do you want to see Dominick Cruz fight Jose Aldo? See how your answer probably just changed? Yeah, hell yeah, we want to see that fight. But before we can make the prediction that we're going to get to see it, we have to first establish what is it about. And Jose's already done that. If it is not a championship fight, then it needs to be a fight that gets me to the championship fight. If it is not the fight that gets me to a championship fight, then it needs to be a fight that gets me to the fight that gets me to the championship fight. But right, like Jose Aldo has been perfectly clear, and he's got us on board. He is working up the card. He is working up the competition. He's calling out only the right guys. TJ Dillashaw versus Jose Aldo, for me, makes all the sense in the world. We don't know where TJ Dillashaw is, and we know that Dominick is healthy. And getting Dominick to say yes, getting Dominick to call you out. And Dominick doesn't do this for any of the reasons. He's not trying to hurt his own career. When Dominick became an announcer, he saw his role changing. And I know this because I'm personal. It happened to me. I'm going to spend part of that time when you accept that position of building somebody else. And it's very hard to put yourself over when you're in that role because it doesn't come with the role. So it's a very strange balance. And you can either try to find out which side of that tightrope to walk, or you can just not do it at all. And that's what Dominick has done. He spends his time building up other people. He spends time telling the story of other people, sometimes even within his own division. He spends his time going along to get along. It's not bad what he's doing. It's not wrong. It's actually quite nice. It comes from a very kind place within Dominick's heart. But it also makes it very difficult to get him these big fights against guys who want something very specific, which is recognition and contendership, if Dominick does not verbally put himself in that same spot. Physically, historically, record-wise, resume, achievements, you're damn right Dominick's there. Without saying one word, Dominick is there, but this sport isn't operating on that right now. We're in a different era. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to the accomplishment era someday. Right now, we're in the entertainment era. It's been going on for about a decade. It will burn itself out. There will be a transition. Will Dominick still be competing at that time? I mean, right, it's very important that you observe the sport for what it is. You don't pull a Sandhagen. You got full vision. You can see absolutely all of the pieces and that you go all in. And that's where it just gets a little bit confusing for Dominick. Look, there's a part of me really wants to see that. I don't want anything to get in the way of Jose Aldo versus TJ Dillashaw. For me, I get it. I get it, and nobody needs to explain it to me. That makes sense. That's the #1 contenders fight. I get it, but TJ's out for a minute. Dominick's in. Jose wants to be busy. I mean, right? Things line up. But one little miss within the psychological perception will get a line drawn straight through that, and the brainstorm session will continue. So I'm just asking you guys a question. I just want to know your answer. I'm going to read the comments, and I'm going to digest it, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to reflect on this again. But I will ask you for my third and final time today, do you want to see Dominick Cruz fight Jose Aldo?